Join Scotty G Wednesday from noon to 3 at the Bar WB pop-up event at the Cal Ranch Store, 950 North Main Street in Spanish Fork. DJ and PK, the Jazz are all done 22-60 after one last loss to the Lakers. Oscar Schwebe, 29 points, 17 rebounds. Oh my gosh, the Jazz found the next Dwight Howard, PK. Unreal. Fantastic. 29-17. We're done with that. Now we move on. The attention turns to getting better. Will Hardy listed a lot of ways to get better, took a lot of questions about that. But, man, when the question came up with playoff expectations for next year, he wanted no part of that, which I got to say, I guess I can cut him a little slack. He's probably tired after flying back into town. It's the morning after the season ended, and a lot of stuff will happen between now and then. So if he says something now, then it gets etched in stone. I get that. But nonetheless, that's the expectation. I guess there'll be a time to address that later, even though we all know where it's going.
Yeah, plus I understand he got in the C group, so he was last off, so that even took longer.
The C group.
I'm surprised it was so early at 8 o'clock after a game on the West Coast. There's too many variables to start predicting. I think that, I would have said if it were me, I want to be as good as we can be. What that is remains to be seen. And I think we'll have a better idea as we get into the summer and September and October. And it's like when we had Media Day those years ago, and Quinn Snyder says to me at the end of the Media Day, I'm still wondering why I was there at like 6 o'clock in the evening. I don't know. I must have been subbing for somebody or something. Oh, yeah, it was Monday, so I probably was. But with that in mind.
Nice.
It was that.
I got to the gate and the door was closed.
That
How
it
far
was.
is it to the other side of the island?
Way worse than me. And he looks at me, and we were just alone in the gym. He says, "Man, either way, we're going to be a story." And he knew.
Yep.
He knew. And he was willing to say. And I don't know what he said in public, but he certainly said that to me, and he was spot on. And they actually fulfilled what they were capable of doing. I think that was the year they won a first-round playoff series, right? So they took a huge jump. The thing about it is I'm a little reluctant to go for that huge jump. I want it bad. There's no doubt about it. But the year before, post-All-Star break, they really turned it on. Well, this team, this group, has done nothing together. Yep. They weren't even together. 2 games.
Yep.
That's it. So they had a little building block in place that we felt pretty good about saying, okay, they're ready, plus with the additions, right? Now, maybe they don't need that. Well, who's to say? But, excuse me, the prior group had a little bit of history and a foundation that we were more comfortable of saying that. This group remains to be seen.
I think the thing about that group is they had the big early season. I think there were multiple early season injuries. I think one was to Gobert, which was a pretty big one. And so they were a very different team the first half of the season versus the second half of the season. And once they had their guys in the second half of the season, we saw it. It was undeniable. And also, when you were told that wasn't the morning after the last game, Right. Maybe Will say something like that at a press conference after the draft.
I think he will, yeah.
After a signing or thing, or maybe at a preseason availability next year. The timing, the emotion will be different. You'll know what your roster looks like. You know what other people's rosters look like.
Right.
Between now and then, somebody in the West will decide to tear their roster apart because somebody always decides to. Now, will that be one team or will that be 3?
Well, we already saw Memphis do it this year.
Right, Memphis, exactly. So we can already pencil Memphis in for, bottom of the group, right? Now, Sacramento had a ton of injuries. Because of their history, I don't know anybody's going to predict they make a big jump. But if they were to make a big jump, people will look back and say, well, they didn't have the guys last year. They literally didn't. I read one of the stories they're bringing Christie back to start next season. They say they're bringing him back for next season. I'm reluctant. It's the Kings. Are you really? Are we sure that 30 or 50 games in you're not going to pull the trigger on him? But the thing in the story was their projected starting lineup never played a game together.
Yeah.
They had injuries all year long.
Right.
So maybe a team like that makes a big jump. All that has to be figured out. But the point is, it's what Steve Cleveland just told us in the last hour. He said clearly they could have won another 10 games. Maybe they could have won another 15, right? So is this really a 30 to 35 win? 40 might take a little more imagination to see this group getting to 40, so maybe we shouldn't say that. Maybe they could have, but it's a little hard to guarantee that. But certainly it's not a reach to say this is a 30-win team. So next year, if people are saying, oh, it's incredible, they made some 30-game jump. Oh, did they really? They sandbagged at least 10 wins away.
Yeah, but I still think that it has to gel.
It does.
And that's what's going to be so intriguing to be able to watch, to see how it gels.
Yes.
Who does what?
I think that needs to be underlined. That needs exclamation points on it. You need to shout that out. Like, guys got playing time and guys got shots this year. Well, there's only so many minutes and there's only so many shots. Now, Stockton and Malone aren't walking through that door. Nobody's playing 82 next year. And we've talked quite a bit about Markkanen doesn't play 70 games. He doesn't. So is he going to miss 15? Is he going to miss 20? Is he going to miss 25? TBD. But the fact is, Jackson's only played 70 games twice in 8 years. And Walker Kessler's only played it once in 4 years. Now, maybe Walker could have played more. There's been some sandbagging going on and some tanking here. So maybe he could have had a second or third year where he played 70 games. But how many games? I mean, I think there are a lot of people, me included, who are excited to see how good they can be defensively and how good they can be rebounding with all this size all over the floor. 3 7-footers and Ace Bailey, and what if they get lucky and get Debonsa, who would bring even more, he's not that big in the league, but for his position he would be. So more positional size. Gosh, this could be, well, first off, you don't know if you're getting Debonsa. Plus, how many games are these guys going to play next year? Any one of them, 50, 60?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Markkanen play a career high.
You what?
I think we're going to see Markkanen play a career high.
He breaks 70? He has his 70-game year?
Yeah, I think that everybody understands what's at stake here. And we're not going to see these guys smiling on the bench like we have these last several weeks. It's been a joke.
Will be different.
It's been, these nondescript players getting triple doubles, as I said earlier. That just made it even a bigger joke.
It did.
And I'm tired of jokes.
The Jazz went years without a triple-double, and suddenly that two guys who at the start of the year nobody could have named.
Right.
And they're coming off the bench to get triple-doubles in the same game.
It was a joke. That
goes back to Locke's point about you can look at all the numbers you want, but how much of what happened this year was really real and how much pressure is going to be next year that's going to change everything.
Yeah, and he, as I said, Will Hardy wasn't going to be mentioning those guys, and he didn't. And the questions were good questions about what do you want as expectations. That was a legitimate question. And then what do you expect out of these youngsters? And he went right to George and Bailey.
Yep.
And it's going to be a wonderful life. George Bailey. Absolutely, man.
Why haven't more people picked up on that? You're out on the cutting edge again.
Well, because they hadn't won yet. When they start winning, then they'll get more attention, and all the acclaim comes through winning. It doesn't come through stats. You can have stats, but if you don't have winning, nobody cares about the stats. When you win, then you'll be drawing attention, right? San Antonio got a bunch of attention this year, and Wembanyama has got a bunch of attention. The focus is, and we're hearing a lot more about him because they got through his developmental with the team, and now they're winning, and now they're a threat. We'll see how it shakes out coming up here in the next several weeks. And I think I don't know if the Jazz will be in that position next year. It's probably maybe a little bit too much to ask, but they can look at, we've compared them to what Phoenix did this year. What did Phoenix do? Are they 7th? I think they're playing 8. They're playing Portland, which is 8, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's a good baseline right there. That's a fair evaluation. It might even be more, may even be higher, depending on the moves that are available to be made over the offseason, right? But I have got no problem saying, well, look at Phoenix. And, they may change and they're looking like they're going to change these tank rules. But there's going to be loopholes, and maybe we don't have as many teams tanking, so there won't be as many easier wins, but there's still going to be crappy teams, and the Jazz aren't going to be one of them. They're going to be a competitive team, and they can pile up some wins that puts themselves in the position of maybe what the Mammoth did. The Mammoth, again, they're another team that we compared to the Jazz when Quinn Snyder took them to the playoffs. Well, they had a little bit of a foundation. That's the only thing that is a little bit of more of a mystery to me, is this group has no foundation to build. They've got individuals that they can build off of, but they have nothing together, right? Especially with Jaren Jackson only playing 2 games. Well, that's nothing. And so I'm not really sure how all the pieces of the puzzle are going to fit. That's what Will Hardy now is we're going to find out how good of a coach he is. We're told he's really good. Well, now we get to see, because you can't tell me he's really good and then in the next breath tell me, well, there was no consequences for the players. Because if there's no consequences to the players, then what consequence was there for the coach? And then I think either there's consequences for the coach and the players, and if there's not that much consequence for the players, there probably isn't that much consequence for the coach. And I know we're not supposed to say that. We're supposed to build this guy up. And I have no reason to doubt that he's not good, but how is he going to be coaching and the moves that he makes? Because there's not going to be everybody who's going to – Keontae George may not have the same amount of FGAs that he had this year versus next year. And Jaren Jackson's coming in here, and we saw it just in the 2 games. He wasn't looking to defer. Well, how's that going to be? How's it going to work with Markkanen? Markkanen's sitting over there. Man, my vision of Markkanen is he plays a little bit and he plays well, but it's sort of over there with the clothes on, the street clothes, smiling on the bench. That's sort of what I think of him. It's both. I can't get either that he's a really good player, but I also can't get my impression of him of sitting in street clothes on the bench, because I've seen that a lot. And I don't want to see that much more anymore. Now, how all that stuff is going to come together, it's going to be fascinating to develop.
I know there's a lot of parallels between, you can look at the Thunder and the Spurs because they've gone through similar rebuilds and young guys. But the Angels, they were in Boston. And so I keep looking at Boston. Like, what did they do there? And the thing that I can't possibly identify that I know they need, and I'm sure Austin and Danny know they need it too, but the guy in Boston who is a winner, who doesn't get the pub and doesn't get the stats, Derek White makes winning plays. He plays a lot of games. He does everything pretty well. There's nothing about him that makes him a celebrity. He's just a really good basketball player. And the number of times that I watch a Celtic playoff game and that guy either hits a big shot, grabs a big rebound, gets a big steal, whatever it is, has a big assist, it's massive. It's incredible how often he makes the right play, a big play in a big moment in the game when the pressure's on. He's done it a lot. You can't possibly identify. You can't win without guys like that. To your point about the numbers, lots of people score a lot of points, but man, you got to make the winning play at the right time, whatever that play is. And who's that guy? How far did the Jazz go? They got to find that guy. Now, maybe that guy's not on the roster. Maybe that's an off-season acquisition. Maybe it's a young guy who grows into that role and they haven't played pressure games, so how can you really tell? That's a big piece of the puzzle that has to be identified out there because they call them glue guys or whatever, but everybody has them. All the great teams have guys like that. They don't have the best stats, but they make winning plays.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Find your Derek White. Find your Ron Harper when the Jazz are losing to the Bulls. Yeah, Jordan, yeah, Pippen, but, man, Ron Harper. Good grief, that guy. Yeah, those guys are
Good grief.
Good grief.
Yeah. Fiddlesticks.
A couple other things. So that I didn't say.
That was my
grandma's
Every once
in a while I wind
favorite
up and you're like,
word right there.
DJ's going to put
Fiddlesticks.
something out on the air.
Yeah, just doggone it, I love you.
Gosh darn.
Gosh darn it. All right, DJ and PK. When we come back, everything you missed in this show, we get you up to date on all the headlines, all the news next. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
Just a bunch of guys sitting around and talking sports. This is Scotty G and Friends.
Logan Cooley, 2 years ago, is about the time things really started to break that this organization was going to move from Phoenix to Salt Lake City. And now 2 years later, you're in the playoffs. Just what does that feeling feel like for you as a player, knowing that you're going to be playing postseason hockey?
It's awesome. I mean, I think as a little kid, you dream about eventually one day winning the Stanley Cup, and just the experience we're going to gain from being in the playoffs. You know, there's some guys that on our team. I'm one of them that haven't even experienced playoff hockey. And, you know, you watch on TV, just the excitement in the buildings, how intense the hockey is. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be unbelievable. And I'm sure the fans are going to have the Delta Center rocking. And we can't honestly wait to, get started once playoffs start. It's going to be the most fun hockey that, I think I'm going to be a part of.
Catch Scotty G and Friends weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's time to get you up to date on everything you missed. If you're joining the show late, the Slacker Radio headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today. Your local, trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. PK, the Utah Mammoth, in my mind, look like they are clearly in the second tier of teams in the Western Conference. You got 3 teams over 100 points, and then you got a group of 4 teams that are sitting on 90 or 91. The Mammoth are on 90 right now, along with Las Vegas, Edmonton, and Anaheim. And when you're in that second tier, I guess there's just a little more up and down than you would prefer. And the down this weekend, back-to-back 4-1 losses. A lot of complaints about the way they played, not sharp enough, loose with the puck, bad giveaways, all the kind of stuff that's going to get them beat in the playoffs if they don't clean it up.
I wonder if there was just a little bit of a hangover. We accomplished the goal and maybe need to refocus. Because once they were playing well at the time, they clinched, they got in. That X, as Bill Armstrong was talking about, was there. And so maybe a little bit of a letdown. But now you got to regroup. I mean, Hornacek used to talk about, he always felt, I remember sitting in a locker after a game at the end of the season once, and he was always so very accommodating, as we all knew. And he was saying, man, the last 10 games for playoff teams are really important because that's when you need to build momentum and get everybody in the right frame of mind going forward here. And so here it'll be interesting to see what they do now going forward as far as them having this opportunity to get in the postseason is great, but you don't want to get waxed and have that be the lasting memory of the postseason. Even if you lose, you want to be able to compete well.
Well, I think we all assume they're going to lose somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
so there's that. If they mess this up and are wild card number 2, they play the team with the best record in the league, 115 points in Colorado. Now, crazy things happen in the NHL playoffs. Boston set a record and went out in the first round, so there's no locks.
Right.
But if they just play well in these last couple of games, they ought to be the first wild card, in which case they go on the same side of the bracket with Vegas, Edmonton, and Anaheim.
Well, that doesn't guarantee anything either.
It doesn't. Those 4 teams, that ought to be a slugfest. They all look pretty evenly matched. Anybody could go out right away. Anybody could end up in the conference final.
Yeah.
It ought to be total chaos.
Just worry about yourself and get yourself in the right frame of mind and play well.
I think that your theory on there's a psychologically there's just going to be a little bit of a letdown, right? The one level of pressure is off because you've checked one of the boxes on the list of goals, and it was a big one. Get the X, qualify for the playoffs. So if they had a little letdown, well, how do they bounce back against Winnipeg? Not a great team, 8 points behind them in the standings, winnable game. Go get it Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And depending on how things go, because the Kings play tonight and play again tomorrow. They're on the road in Seattle and Vancouver. It could be clinched by tomorrow night. If Utah wins and the Kings lose one of those two, then could be all done. All right, another big story over the weekend was Rory McIlroy putting on the green jacket again. 2 Masters back-to-back. I guess we know our Mount Rushmore of the Masters now. It's the 4 guys who won it back-to-back. There you go.
I never thought of that.
It's always the Mount Rushmore. I guess the only way to mess it up is Bobby Jones is the founder. Does he have to be on the Mount Rushmore? Because there'd be no Masters without him. And obviously he's a legend with a Grand Slam and all that. It's 100 years ago, but he still did it.
Well, I think that we'd have to put God on there then, because there'd be no Masters without him either.
See, that immediately takes Mount Rushmore down to 2. Well, then it's Jack and Tiger. Sorry, Nick. Sorry, Rory. It's Jack and Tiger. At any point, did you think Rory was going to lose that?
Yes.
When?
Well, when he was down by 2.
Okay, you got me there. On the front nine. At any point, because the tournament starts on the back nine on Sunday. At any point then?
That's nonsense. The tournament starts Thursday.
I know it does.
On the first tee.
And Scheffler pointed out his 74 Friday when everybody else was going low and the conditions were good and he didn't. That's where it got away.
And that's always been my approach to golf. When they go low, I go high.
You go high?
When they zig, PK zags.
I think that was a specific political reference PK was making there, but
I think everybody goes low, but that's just me. On all sides. I don't know that I thought he was going to lose, but I wasn't sure. It wasn't like, oh, this is a slam dunk, he's going to win. But when he got back to even, and I'm sitting there watching it with my wife, and then the announcers even said it. It looked like he got his mojo back. He started to, stride a little more confidently.
He does. Yeah, and boy, with him, the way he walks is really telltale. And it's not that other people maybe don't, but his swagger is obvious when he's got it. When he's confident and he's attacking a golf course, yeah, he's got to walk. He's good and he knows it, and he's dialed in and he knows it.
I think at that point, he's got a little bit of Tiger. You got to put it in perspective, though, in terms of, hey, I know I'm better than you. Mm-hmm. I think it might have been a little bit different if Scheffler was there neck and neck.
Yes. The fact that Scheffler was coming from so far off the pace,
was lurking.
In horse racing parlance there. Seemed like he was a furlong back. That was a long way to go.
Right. If he would have been like in one group or in the same group, and so they're playing the same amount of holes and all that stuff, might have been different, but it wasn't. And that's not to take anything away from McIlroy, because he's a superstar in the game. Scheffler, I thought under the circumstances, he's got Remy to go home to. Now he's got Bennett and Remy and Meredith. What more do you want? Is a freaking Masters jacket going to really enhance your life that much more? No. You've got Meredith, you've got Bennett, and you've got Remy. I like Jim Nantz. 16 days ago, he became a second. He always tries to make it so dramatic. That time when Tiger won, he tried to get Tiger to cry so much in the house there when they do the interview. It's like, and I know he walks on water, but man, can we tone down the dramatics and just let it happen naturally?
No. Ask again. Ask me one more time.
Let them take care of it themselves. I don't need that for you to try to fabricate it.
You were talking earlier about Rory at 6 majors now. He's in his mid-30s. He's got at least 5, maybe 10 years of championship-level golf. 7, 8, 9, 10 majors. Where does it go? Scheffler's already sitting on 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Where do you think he goes?
Well, that was what I talked to Nick Faldo about on that interview. That was my first question, and I took him by surprise. And he didn't know where I was going with the interview. Right. But, he wasn't really sure and wasn't really ready to make that commitment either. And obviously he knows a million times about it more than I would ever know. And so, but, the ball striking is there. You wonder about the burning desire, because to have that, so much has to be sacrificed in life. And you just wonder, how much is he willing to sacrifice? I listened to, I guess in today's world, we'd call it a podcast with Johnny Miller. And he talked about that, and his children were starting to get older. as he was older, looking back, and so it was a retrospective, and he talked about how he was willing to make sacrifices in his game for his family. And if I know your kids, that means they're out in the front and you're talking about them. And I do have. My wife went and got a baby gift, and it's in the mail for little Remy. And he should be getting it here shortly. So I know who Remy is. And I've literally known Remy all of his life. Now, it's only 17 days, granted. But Bennett, too. Bennett's got a good thing going on. And so what does Scotty want to sacrifice? We see it all the time with LPGA players, the ones who want to have families. Ochoa could have been a superstar on the LPGA, and she got to the top, and she wanted to be married. And now you never hear from her. You literally never hear about Elena Ochoa, and yet she, for a while there, was looking like she was going to be the next Sorenstam. Well, priorities change, right? So we'll have to see.
It's easier to track on the LPGA because they literally go away.
Yeah.
But there was a quote. Now, he doesn't go away, so it doesn't hit the same way. But there was a quote from Jordan Spieth about being a husband, being dad, I'm paraphrasing, but dad to this, your dad to that, your husband here. And he's like, and part-time I play golf. And it's like, well, now if we wonder why Jordan Spieth isn't winning the way he did when he was single and didn't have kids, and, well, there you go.
Well, we've certainly heard that about Tony.
Yes, Tony Finau, that'd be another one. And Jack Nicklaus said it about Tiger. When Tiger was just flying out of the gates in the early 2000s, he goes, that's good now, but at some point he's going to go home, and it's not going to be enough, and then he's going to play less, and he had injuries catch up, and obviously he's had other issues as well. But it's like Jack was just waiting. It's like maybe you can be hyper-focused at 22, 23, 24 in a way you're just not going to be later in life. And that might explain why so many of these guys have burst out of the gates and we think they're going to dominate. And they're in that phase that Tiger was dominating when Jack said, yeah, but times will change. Your mindset will change.
Why do I not know Jordan Spieth's kids, but yet I know Remy and Bennett?
Yeah, I don't know.
Honestly,
I wouldn't know all these other kids. I mean, I see them, but I don't bother to learn their names. Like, I've already forgotten Phil's kids' names, but I'm sure you remember them. But they were running out of the green when Phil was winning.
Sophie? I don't remember his kids' names.
Well, for a while there, you had them down. And
I did.
You throw them out left and right.
Yeah. And we saw little Poppy, and it should have been reverse. I mean, it will be when Rory is in his 80s, and it will be at that point he looked at Poppy and said, come to Poppy, and in 50 years from now, she'll look at him and say, come to Poppy. So, the circle of life there.
Sing it. All right, DJ and PK, the other big story of the weekend, the Utah Jazz put a wrap on the season. Will Hardy spoke to the media at 8 o'clock. We carried it live. Hopefully you heard that. Yock's posting it. We'll have it out on social media, on our website, KSLSports.com. It'll be up on YouTube. You can watch and listen to the whole thing. I thought he hit on several interesting points. He said several things I wanted to hear him say. Talked about defending and rebounding, and they have got to be better. They've been 29 or 30 during this rebuild. And of course, they've been playing crazy lineups, so it's probably not really indicative of who they are. But he specifically talked about Ace Bailey and Keontae George, and you got to get better one-on-one defending. Period, end of story. And obviously, you want to be playing multiple seven-footers behind them to clean things up when they inevitably do get beat at times. But nonetheless, he went right to that, and off-season player development as well, PK.
It's a huge off-season for so many of these guys. Ace Bailey is the latest. The other guys have been professionals for 2 or 3 off-seasons. So now it's a huge one. It's a huge one for Kessler, everybody. And I get healthy, find a way to make sure these little nagging things don't get in the way.
Yeah, okay, but how much of that, and Steve Cleveland brought this up, his interviews right after, you can listen to it as well. You got to get them healthy first before they improve. But are they really not that healthy? I mean, I have no doubt Keontae George rolled his ankle. We could see it in the game. We could see him hobbling up. We've seen it a million times. If you played enough, you've probably done it yourself a time or two. But it's about the time where he had to be healthy right about now. And hamstrings are a great way to hide injuries. I'm just not sure they're as beat up as the injury list would suggest if you took it at face value.
I don't know. Did you see Nurkic's nose? That thing looked hurt.
That was also brought up. Would Nurkic be back with the team? Would Love be back with the team? And we can ask Pablo Mastroeni about this when he comes on Friday. He said once, there's no place for sentimentality. And he's let veteran players go that he really liked, but as soon as you start getting sentimental, you're just going to get beat.
I don't think you bring Nurkic back for any sentimentality. I mean, he's only been here one season.
Yeah, but he got into how much you're together, and there's the human-to-human relationship, and you like him, and you can't let that be a factor.
Who got into that?
Will did when he was talking.
Oh.
He talked about there's the coach-player relationship. There's also the human-to-human relationship.
Oh, but you can have human-human relationship. The two factors that you have to have in order to have a human-human relationship is one of you has to be a human and the other has to be a human. That's it.
Slow down. You're going too fast, PK. I'm taking notes here.
So player XYZ, you can have that. It's not like it's unique. Because he also had it with these other dudes who are going to be jettisoned. How did he not have it with Chandler Kennedy or Kennedy Chandler? Guy was lighting it up, and then they don't let him play the last game.
You just created a new one, Kennedy Candler.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why it's so confusing, Yak. That's why I'm starting to get to know the guy. I was starting to have a relationship with
his name
Chandler Kennedy
Candler.
Kennedy Candler. Yeah, I was just starting to have a relationship with the guy, and boom, he's gone.
Welcome to the nature of a 10-day contract.
Kennedy Candler.
They couldn't let him stay for one more game?
No, his 10 days were up. Legitimately.
Well, then make it 11. What are they going to do, fine him again?
Sure.
How about Memphis not getting fined for that lineup they ran out against the Jazz on Friday?
90% of their salary cap was on the bench that night.
Awesome. Spectacular. All right, DJ and PK, your feedback next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it is time for your feedback. What have you got to say about today's show? The question of the morning, Utah Jazz are all done. 22 wins, 60 losses. How glad are we that it's over? Nick, very glad. I think we've done a great job of putting ourselves in position to compete again. Can't wait to watch winning Jazz basketball again.
Agreed.
Pretty much on point right there.
Yeah.
U-State Iceman, we are very disgruntled because 22 wins is too high for this year. If you're going to tank as in not win, you need to be a tank factor, not just try to build one tank.
A tank factory? Well, I don't know that that's going to get you what you want. It didn't get you what you wanted last year. They had the worst record last year.
And they slid back to fifth.
So,
although they may have ended up with a really good player, which is the goal.
That's the goal. Yeah, and right. So even if you get the pick, do you get the right player?
Right. B-Dots, they'd be happier if they fired all the management and started over.
No.
Fire Danny Ainge, 5 exclamation points.
Not now.
Good grief. Isn't that exactly how you turn into Sacramento or Washington or I was going to say Charlotte, but Charlotte got good this year. But Charlotte for the decade prior to this season?
Yeah, the constant turnover just leads to ineptitude. And maybe you have ineptitude that leads to the conference or to the constant turnover, the chicken and the egg. But nevertheless, you can go down the list and the Phoenix, that they had like 3 years. They changed coaches after 1 year, and they just did it here again, didn't they? They did it back when they had who's the European guy who was on the staff here for the Jazz, and then went down there and coached 1 season, and they sucked. And then they tried it. And they tried it again here, where they were going with a recycled guy, Vogel, and then Budenholzer, and then they just get on with that, man. Get some stability and try to build something. Have a plan. Quit changing the plan every third day.
Because that works.
Yeah, I mean, Utah State, they didn't change plans. The situation came up, and they've been able to hit on it, and we'll see what they do going forward. But I think that's sort of the exception, and that's college anyway.
Igor Kokoskov is who you're trying to think of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he told him he told him who to draft, and they ignored him. I really think you should draft this Luka Doncic guy. No.
Yeah, didn't he have a history with the
He did,
the
yeah.
kid?
They
He was a
crossed
kid
paths
at
in
the
Europe.
time.
He's like, he's the guy. Nope, we're doing this. The
Right.
team's terrible. Well, you should have drafted him. You should have listened to me. Nope, we'd rather fire you.
Oh, and I can tell you that happened with Hornacek in New York. I literally can tell you that. Draft Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Hornacek to Earl Watson to Jay Triano to Igor Kokoskov to Monty Williams. How you go through 5 coaches in 5 years. And go.
And that was then, and then they just did it recently again. Different ownership, but still they did it again.
After Monty Williams had his run, then Frank Vogel got a year, Mike Budenholzer got a year. Now Jordan Ott has had a year, and presumably will get another one.
Oh, he will, yeah. Unless something crazy would happen, but yeah. Absolutely.
45 wins, and they're headed to the playoffs.
Yeah, suddenly there's a light where there wasn't before.
Trailblazers and Suns, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. We will have our play-in game start. The winner of that game will be 7th and get San Antonio in the opening round. That follows Heat and Hornets, which is a 9th place, 10th place game. So the loser will be eliminated there. All right, DJ and PK, we got a little more feedback here. We got people weighing in on Rory McIlroy, back-to-back Masters. How impressive is that? Most people are fairly impressed, although you brought up, and I think you're right about this, on the list of his career accomplishments, he's got at least 2 that are better than that. And winning back-to-back Masters is pretty impressive.
Winning Masters is pretty impressive.
All right. Yeah.
And, since it's only been done 3 other times, largely by household names, too, that adds to it. And if you're talking about tradition and that goes into sports, which matters, the Masters tradition can rank with any other tradition in sports. I'm not talking about singing Sweet Caroline in the 7th inning. I'm talking about a little bit more substance than that. And playing this tournament every year, same place, blah, 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 and then only having 3 other guys, and they're all prominent names, that catches your eye right there.
It is the magic of seeing the same course and the same holes over and over. And I feel that way about other PGA Tour stops, but I don't feel that way about the majors, because the 3 majors move around so much.
Yeah, and that's fine that they do.
I mean, at Riviera, that shot looking up 18 towards the clubhouse, I've seen that so many times in my life. I've never been there, and I feel like I have. I know it.
Yes, yeah, and I've been there, and it portrays the way it looks. And the same thing with number 1, it's a downhiller.
Yeah, and Pebble Beach has got that par 3 on the front 9 that sticks out into the water that they're always showing shots of. At 18, the way it curves along the coastline. And it seems like every year somebody's scrambling down there to see, I might be able to knock this back up on the fairway.
Oh, yeah. This year, Morikawa I think he went and got lunch waiting for those guys to get out of there.
Yeah. So there's you get that with these iconic courses, and it's just when they were playing number 12 yesterday, I was thinking that, like, how many times have you seen guys here, And it's just a short par 3. What could go wrong? But we all know the green, right? Mm-hmm. Super wide left to right, very little depth, a little gust of wind. You're short, you're over the back, whatever it is. Pretty tricky. All right, DJ and PK, that'll do it for us today. A little Masters, a little end-of-season jazz. The Utah Mammoth are back at it tomorrow night. They've only got 2 games left in their season. You actually heard Ben. He was at the press conference this morning at 8 o'clock talking with Will Hardy. He and Jake will be talking about it next. The Jazz put a ramp on the season. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben with more on that next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.